Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 144 of Crunch Time with the N326 duo. I'm your host, Sam Godsey, and with me, as always, is the lovely Mets fan, Tanner Dislin. Tanner, your Mets are playing right now. Looks like, do we say it? It's 6-2, just going into the middle of the bottom of the eighth. So
3 outs away.
Three outs away
with a 6-2 lead.
So looking pretty good for your Mets. It's been a crazy couple days for your fandoms. But how are you doing tonight?
Sam, it just keeps getting crazier and crazier. Since we last talked on this podcast, game one was going on when we were recording last time. So much has happened to the New York Mets that has just made my heart rate go up, go down. I at one point I was convinced I died and went to heaven in game three of the wild card series. Everything has been absolutely crazy. And not to mention, in back-to-back weeks now, the Vikings have almost blown 3 possession leads. This one in London. This is crazy. The only time I wasn't stressing was Iowa getting absolutely blown out by Ohio State. But we'll get to that later.
Yeah, absolutely. Not a great week for the Hawkeyes, but we have an action-packed episode for y'all. We're going to talk winners, losers. Tanner is going to give us a little MLB playoff update. Going to talk about the crazy weekend of college football, as well as a Sunday superior slate. It was an awesome slate of football this past week, and wrap up with Player of the Week. Have a super special guest for Pick'em this week, and then wrap up with a question of the episode. But Tanner, let's kick off as we always do. Who is your winner of the episode?
Yeah, Sam, we had a big-time performance in the MLB. Now, I know we're going to get to a little bit more in-depth breakdown of what's happened since we last talked on the episode here. But my winner is going to be Kerry Carpenter, Sam. And I know a lot of you are probably saying, who? Yeah, exactly. I guess it was yesterday, on Monday, the Tigers were playing a pretty crucial game 2 in Cleveland, trying to avoid going down 0-2 in that best of 5. So only one game away from closing out that series. Cleveland would have been. It was 0-0 in the top of the 9th inning. Now, if you remember when we talked about this Cleveland Guardians team, Sam, we talked about a guy named Emmanuel Clase last episode when Brandon was on. He is the best closer in the game. His 2024 stats, Sam, he came in 74 games. Guess that ERA.
So how many games?
74 games. He pitched 74.1 innings. So 74 and a third. Now an ERA is every 9 innings. How many runs are you giving up? He pitched. So how many runs did he average giving up every 9 innings?
1.4.
0.61.
Oh, boy.
This guy has been absolutely untouchable. 101-mile-an-hour fastball, 100-mile-an-hour cutter, absolutely disgusting stuff. The best closer in baseball has been essentially untouchable. Well, Kerry Carpenter comes in a pinch hit spot because the Tigers started a lefty. He's a lefty. Clase is a righty. He came in to pinch hit, and all he did was hit a pinch hit 3-run home run to put the Tigers ahead in the top of the 9th. That lead stuck. Tigers won game 2. Now they're heading back to Detroit in a 1-1 series, Sam. An absolutely insane, probably the second most clutch home run. And interestingly enough, the second most clutch 3-run home run this postseason. But an absolutely insane clutch moment from Kerry Carpenter. And it's from it's not from some guy who's making $20, $25, $30 million a year. It's not your Bryce Harper. It's not your Francisco Lindor. It's not your Fernando Tatis. It's somebody no one's heard of before, and he came up huge for the Tigers.
Yeah. When you said who, that is exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, dude, it was impressive. Love seeing a guy that doesn't get a lot of ABs come up in a big spot and pull it off. So that is super cool. Speaking of super cool things, that's where my winner is. I'm going to talk about the James family. Of course, everyone knows this story. Whether you like it or not, it is one of the coolest stories. the NBA preseason kicked off this past weekend, and Sunday, LeBron and Bronny James became the first father and son duo to play in an NBA game at the same time during the first half of the Lakers game against the Suns in the second quarter. LeBron finished with like 19 points in 16 minutes. Bronny had a hockey assist.
There you go.
That was highlighted by House of Highlights. But regardless of whether you think Bronny deserves to be in the league or not, this is a pretty sweet moment for the James family.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, it's, you said, the first one in history. It's absolutely insane. I mean, we all know the longevity. Everyone talks about it with LeBron, but you just forget, not only is it incredibly long career, but it's an incredibly long career that started when he was 18.
Yeah.
So it's just, he spent more of his life in the NBA than out of the NBA, which is just insane to think of. It's insane. And then obviously his son getting an NBA action.
Yeah, it truly is insane. I saw an old picture of him and Bronny when Bronny was like a 2-year-old sitting on the bench, and Taj Gibson is sitting next to him. I think that's who it was. And people are like, they need to recreate this photo and sign Taj to 10-day contract.
That would have been nice. That would have been awesome.
Super cool moment for the James family. But let's flip it on the other side of the coin, Tanner. Who is your loser of the episode?
Yeah, Sam, I'm going to go with a couple of Minnesota Golden Gophers. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can you turn on your Superdog like that? Yes, I picked them as my Superdog a week ago. They did come up big and ended up winning the game. But there was a penalty during the game. That's one I can't say I have ever seen before. Sam, have you ever heard of this or seen this? Now, I'm an absolute sucker for when refs say something funny, where like everybody but the center, he was giving him the business, if you remember that. Yeah, this one is an absolute new one. Minnesota cornerback Justin Wally had a big play in the last drive for USC as they were trying to tie the game. And in his celebration, the celebration that all cornerbacks do, where you kind of do this like you sheath your sword, kind of a thing. He kind of did that. And then at the end, he simulated drawing out a gun out of like a holster. Yeah. And he got penalized for it. Now, the ref from the penalty, he could have just said, "Oh, it's sportsmanlike conduct, 15-yard penalty." No. He explained it to us exactly what happened. He actually said, "Sportsmanlike conduct, simulating brandishing a weapon."
There you go.
Which is an absolute new one. I know PJ Fleck was not too happy about it. I don't think any Minnesota fan was. Ended up not being that big of a deal. It was a decently big deal during it because it was during the last drive. However, they ended up getting an interception in the end zone to seal the win. But then after the game, a couple of Golden Gophers, they were talking about the penalty, and you could tell the difference between. You could totally tell the difference between a fifth-year senior and a freshman, Sam, because true freshman Hoy Erich, they asked him about it, and he straight up said, "Yeah, that was terrible." And the fifth-year senior immediately took over the mic and said, "We can't control what the refs say." Yeah. Immediately, like, no, you can't say that. I don't know in the college. I don't know if I severely doubt they find the players. They can't. No, there's no way they can find the players. So I don't know what kind of repercussions there could be, but it was pretty funny to see the penalty and then the freshman and the fifth-year senior in their media training. Yeah,
absolutely. That was a funny little sequence there. Surprisingly, it wasn't the only incidents we saw of that kind of celebration. We saw it with South Carolina in that game as well. So super funny But not so funny situation is the New York Jets, Tanner. Breaking news coming this morning. Head coach Robert Saleh has been canned. Now, this is, you see in season firings all the time, right? He was escorted out of the practice facility of after being fired. Didn't even give an opportunity to tell the team, which is absolutely insane. And to add on to that, Salah was planning on there's numerous reports all kind of saying the same thing, but little tweaks here and there. One said he was planning on demoting Nathaniel Hackett and giving the play calling to Todd Downing. And another said he was planning on canning Nathaniel Hackett's. And then I saw another report, obviously big name, their quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, supposedly called the owner of the team and basically said, yeah, we need to move on from Salah. So it is an absolute wreck in New York right now. The Jets are looking awful on and off the field. This just adds to the fire that is the New York Jets.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers, man, he is just an absolute. He's a. I don't know if I want to use the C word, but I'm having trouble coming up with something else. So I'm going to say it. He's an absolute cancer. He's off season. He's doing retreats and wherever the hell he was and not at camp. And then he comes in and he's immediately getting head coaches fired. They brought in an OC that he's familiar with. Looks like he's going to get fired, and as he should. He was absolutely horrible. I don't know if the head coaching job in Denver just completely got rid of his confidence to coach football, but he has not been good ever with the Jets, or obviously with Denver. He was terrible. I mean, it's just really, really bad in New York, and it sucks because they have so much talent, Sam.
Yeah.
I watched them firsthand against Minnesota this weekend. That defense is for real. That cornerback is there. That secondary and the cornerbacks obviously sauce. DJ Reed is, I think, another one. I mean, that secondary is nasty. That pass rush is mean. They have so much freaking talent, and the fact that they have a 40-year-old quarterback who's focused on literally everything but playing football, and they have a bad coaching, and it's an absolute turmoil. It's a shame, but it's the most Jets thing possible, and. Yeah, it's a real shame because I think I would have, it's one of those where I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh, Aaron Rodgers causing chaos and Aaron Rodgers' team not being successful. You hate to see it type of thing. But I definitely would have been okay with the Jets being pretty good this year. I would have liked to see that team be functional and play well because I think the talent level on that team is just so good. But, oh, well, it's a shame. They're a dumpster fire.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's chaos in New York. It's going to be very interesting to see how that all pans out. But Tanner, you ready to catch us up on some MLB playoffs?
I'm going to try my best, man.
Let's hop right into it.
All right.
Get it to us.
All right. So I believe last time we had touched base, we were in the wild card round. Every series ended up in a 2-0 sweep, except for one, of course, and that was the Mets and the Brewers. But the Tigers, coming off of that Scooble dominance, Game 2 came in, got the win again. Same with the Royals, man. That 1-2 punch. Brandon talked about it. You had Reagans go Game 1, Seth Lugo Game 2. The Orioles batch just completely went to sleep. And then the Padres, we kind of said that the Braves were dead. We were right. They did kind of mounted a little bit of a comeback. I think the Padres won by 1, but that was most of the game they were leading by a couple of runs, and they put the Padres to bed, Sam. But the big one to talk about, Mets Brewers. It was an absolute roller coaster. Game 1, we talked about it on here. Mets won pretty comfortably, 8-4, I want to say. Game 2, Mets take a 3-2 lead into the 7th or the 8th. Might have been the 8th. And a pair of a pair of home runs from the Brewers. It was a solo shot by Jackson Churio. He was absolutely excellent this postseason. And then a 2-run shot from Bowers, I believe, gave the Brew Crew the lead. A kind of a blown game. The Mets were up 3-1, I want to say, in the 6th. They blew that. Then it came down to game 3. And let me tell you, the Brewers pitching staff was absolutely excellent. The Brewers were up 2-0. The Mets pitching, Quintana was absolutely excellent, who started for the Mets. Jose Quintana did. And Jose Butto came in, I believe, in the 7th, gave up back-to-back home runs in that game to put the Brewers up 2-0 in game 3. And it looked like it was over. In comes Devin Williams, probably the second best closer in the MLB. He throws that absolutely nasty airbending changeup. And let me tell you, the Miracle Mets did it again. They found a way to get 2 runners on. And then I mentioned that Kerry Carpenter had the second most clutch 3-run home run. That's because Pete Alonso had the most clutch. He ended up going the other way to right field, a 3-run bomb to put the Mets ahead. They ended up scratching another run out that inning on a 2-out Starling Marte single, and they went up 4-2, and they were able to close the game. That specific game, Sam, that's, believe it or not, that's when I said I died and went to heaven. When he hit that home run, I could not believe it. It was the most clutch home run I've seen in a very, very long time. So that's kind of how the wild card round went. I can't remember how we predicted. So what did we? I think both Brandon and I had the Astros. Who did you? You had the Tigers, didn't you?
Yeah.
One for Sam. I know I had the Royals. I think Brandon had the Royals.
I had the
and
Royals.
You had the Royals too. You have
the World Series.
Yeah, I'm going to the World Series. Mets Brewers. I had the Mets. Brandon had the Mets. I believe you had the Brewers. And then I had the Padres.
I can't remember who I picked.
I think we all had the Padres. That one was not very competitive. But then we go into the division series, Sam, and oh boy, do we have a crazy division series, because I talked a little bit about Detroit and Cleveland, right? Cleveland absolutely stomped Detroit in game 1. They scored 5 runs in the first before Detroit had an out. So stomped on them in game 1. Game 2, the pitchers duel, the former Tiger Tyler Boyd versus, or not Tyler Boyd. Did I say Tyler Boyd? I think I might have said Tyler Boyd earlier. Tyler Boyd is the wide receiver. Oh my gosh, what is his first name? Guardians pitcher Boyd. Matthew Boyd, that's what it is. Tyler Boyd is the receiver, but Matthew Boyd and Tariq Skubal, they went back and forth, and then the clutch home run by Kerry Carpenter. In the other American League game, Sam, your Royals, your fighting Royals, they've looked pretty good in that division series. Game 1, I believe it was Cole. I can't remember who started for Kansas City, but it's a game where the Yankees at home with their ace on the mound. It's a game you think they kind of handle back and forth. Had the most lead changes in playoff history, I think. 5 total lead changes. Yankees scratch that game out by 1. Then game 2, they bring in their stopper, Reagan's versus Carlos Rodon for the Yankees, and he came out firing. There's clips of him going viral where he struck out the side in the first, and he was walking around the mound like sticking his tongue out, doing this as he was working through them. And then the Kansas City bats came alive. I don't think he made it through 4 innings.
Brutal,
kind of brutal. And the Royals had scratched a 4-piece in that inning. That was the only one they scored, and they won 4-1. Clutch home run by Salvador Perez. KC is tied going home, Sam, and they've got Seth Lugo at home in game 3. He's been incredible this year. And again, I know Kaufman is going to be rocking. Actually, on Monday night when the Royals won, also the Chiefs were playing on Monday night, and Patrick Mahomes was talking to Arrowhead, talking about the Royals, how he was going to be there, and he wanted to make sure Kaufman was packed for the Royals playoff game. So that's where the American League is, man. 1-1 and 1-1, both going. One going to Detroit, one going to Kansas City. On the National League side of things, Sam, guess what?
What?
It's 1-1, 1-1 in this one as well. The Mets and the Phillies, this series was absolutely insane. Game 1, the Mets down 1-0 in the 8th. They have, I believe they put up a 5 spot in that inning. We're up 5-1. Then scratched another one in the 9th. Phillies got one back in the 9th. I believe they won 6-2. I also just lied to your face. All series are not 1-1. The Mets just took care of business, won 7-2 against Philly. They are up 2-1. But then, so Mets win game 1 in Philly. Obviously, they just won game 3 in New York. But game 2, Sam, was one of the most insane games I've ever watched. New York goes up early 3-0. Philly ties it on back-to-back home runs, a Bryce Harper 2-run shot, a Nick Castellanos who had an excellent day. So make sure your loved ones were safe on Sunday. But he tied it he went back-to-back and tied it. Then next half inning, Brandon Nimmo with the home run. They go up 4-3. That goes all the way until the bottom of the 8th. Bryson Stott with a 2-run triple. And then they scratched another. They were up 6-4. Bottom of the 9th, and then Mark Vientos hits a 2-run home run to tie it. They go 6-6 going into the 9th. Nick Castellanos hits a walk-off double down the line. So back and forth. Philly scratched that one out, kind of gave them life, but the Mets just closed the door with a pretty dominant win. They won this 7-2. Seemed like they were in control from start to finish. So they got a big one in game 4 tomorrow on Wednesday, where they can put the series to bed. And then the NL is an absolute gauntlet because the Padres and the Dodgers, there's tons of bad blood. Padres have gotten off to a hot start in both games. Dodgers came back in game 1. They did not come back in game 2. The Padres kind of beat the crap out of them. Jurickson Profar, did you see this when he robbed the home run?
I was just about to ask you that. That was so freaking funny, dude.
Yeah, an absolute insane move. Robbed a home run and then acted like he didn't, and
they put up the graphics saying Betts hit the home run in top of or bottom of the first. It was absolutely electric. I loved it.
Electric. Fernando Tatis with 2 home runs. There was some bad blood. People throwing baseballs at Jurickson Profar in left field. There was an incident where Manny Machado at third. Oh, we got a phone notification, but there was one where Manny Machado threw it in between innings while the pitcher's warming up before the inning. The first baseman throws ground balls to his fielders and they throw them back. Machado and then at the end they all kind of toss him back towards the dugout as they roll in and get rid of the balls before the inning starts. Well, Machado took the ball and just threw it at the Dodgers bench, which got the Dodgers all pissed off. And now the Dodgers officially filed a complaint with the MLB.
Of course they did.
Of course they did. But with the MLB before game 3 tonight, which starts here shortly. Tons of bad blood in that series. But Sam, we are 1-1 there as well. Going to San Diego, this has been an insane division series round. All series were 1-1. Obviously, the Mets just took the lead 2-1. But specifically in that NL between Mets and Phillies, back and forth, Padres, Dodgers, the bad blood. This has been nuts. This has been absolutely nuts. And I'm getting excited talking about it. I got to catch my breath. Obviously, it helps. The Mets just took a 2-1 lead over their bitter division rivals in the series. But this has been awesome. I love playoff baseball so much. It is absolutely terrifying when your team is in it. And that's it.
Yeah, it has been a action-packed MLB playoff. I even tuned in for it, so it's got to be good. But you mentioned all these back and forth games. Has there been a player that has just separated himself from the rest so far? Or talk to me.
I think from the pitching side of things, I'm just going to go with Tariq Skubal. He's going to be the Cy Young. He has put together 2 incredible outings, Sam. I think he went against the his first game was against the Orioles. And I'm trying to pull up the stats because he went absolutely bonkers against against the Orioles, or excuse me, no, his first because this is the problem. I have so much going on. Cole Reagans for the Royals, their ace lefty. Tariq Skubal for the Tigers, their ace lefty. Got them mixed up. I am going with Tariq Skubal, who is the ace for the Tigers, of course, and he pitched against the Astros in the wild card game, and he put together an excellent start. I'm going to pull it up here. He pitched game one. Pitched game one. He went 6 innings, 4 hits, 0 earned. And then in his second start against the Guardians, he was even better. I believe he went 7 or 8. If I can figure it. He went 7 innings, 3 hits, 0 earned. So a combined 13 innings, 7 hits, 0 earned. He's the absolute stopper for the Detroit Tigers. And if you can get a couple times a series, you're getting an absolute shutdown pitching like that. It's a huge lift for the Tigers. And then on the hitting side of things, I'm going to go with Fernando Tatis. He has 3 home runs in this Dodgers series alone. And 2 of them were in the first inning. He's the guy who gets the Padres out to that hot start. We know it's an emotional series. He's my guy who has been really showing me something with the bat.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously your Mets wrapped up a big win tonight. They're 1 win away from the NLCS. That could be their first appearance since 2015. Tanner, what are kind of those big takes you are going into this? What do the Mets need to do to get that win and secure a spot in the NLCS?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the same kind of the story of the Mets all year. It's pitching, pitching, pitching. Can this team get enough pitching? In this series, they absolutely have. Game 1, Kodai Senga went. He only went a few innings. He's coming back from an injury. They brought in David Peterson in relief. The Mets were dead. Zach Wheeler was absolutely shoving against them. I think he pitched 8. I think he pitched 8 innings, Sam. The reason why they were able to come back, or he pitched 7 innings, I think, because they came back in the 8th. The reason they were able to come back? Because it was a 1-0 game. And it was a 1-0 game because the Mets pitching was just able to keep the Phillies at bay. I mean, the one run was a solo shot from Schwarber on the 3rd pitch of the game from Kodai Senga. So really being able to keep this Phillies lineup that is really deep. I mean, they were the number 2 seed in the NL, only behind the Dodgers. We talked about the Dodgers a million times, how many stars they have. You got Schwarber, you've got Turner, you've got Harper, you've got Castellanos. Those are the first 4. Those have all been all-stars in their career. So can the pitching show up? And then Sean Manaea was absolutely excellent in game 3 as well, holding the Phillies to 2 runs. The Mets offense came alive a little bit. So it's all about pitching with the New York Mets, specifically starting pitching, because that bullpen can get really shaky. So if you can get 6 or 7 from your starter, you can lean on your high leverage guys. That's the key to success for the Mets.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see if they can keep it up going into the next game. But any final thoughts about this MLB playoffs?
This is just in total. I know it's been a lot of yapping, but I'm super excited about this. This is my pitch to everyone out there, man. Tune into these playoffs. I know what you're thinking. Baseball is boring. You don't like to watch it. I mean, take NFL atmospheres on 3rd down. Take I don't really want to compare it to college football because nothing is like college football, but it's that where do or die that like in the NFL, that kind of emotion, that atmosphere only comes down on like 3rd down or like maybe in goal to go situations or when a play happens. In baseball, it's every single pitch, whether it's a ball and a strike. I mean, like in the 3rd inning, a pitcher takes a ball, the crowd erupts. In the 4th inning, the pitcher comes in, gets a strike, the crowd erupts. Like, it is absolutely electric. It makes the game so much more fun to watch when you can feel that energy. So this is my pitch. Tune in. All the series are really close, and it's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned how close these games have been, and boy, have they. But Tanner, you mentioned that nothing is like college football.
Correct.
And boy, this weekend encapsulated that perfectly. I mean, going into this week, Tanner, we were talking about how shit of a slate it is. There weren't any real good games. I mean, we picked an unranked matchup last week, if that tells you anything about this slate, but it turned out to be one of the greatest weekends in college football so far. So let's kick it off with the first game of the big games, Missouri, Texas A&M. Boy, did the Aggies look good.
Yeah, it's the shit pumping.
Yeah.
This is shit pumping. Top to bottom, absolute dominance. Shame on anyone who picked Missouri.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know who that would be.
No, it wouldn't be me, you, or Blake.
Yeah,
no.
It certainly wasn't us. Look to a different podcast than Missouri. Yeah. But, I mean, they looked awesome. They looked absolutely awesome. And I tell you what, the SEC might need to be put on notice because we talk about the schedule, of some of these SEC non-cons. They do have a loss, but of course that loss to us Notre Dame, who's a pretty good team in their own right. And it was in the first week, which we've seen. The committee has a much easier decision now that it's 12 and not 4, but the committee has excused, early losses in favor of late season wins over big time teams. And this was an incredible showing for Texas A&M. They've already jumped up 10 in the rankings. They went from 25 to 15, and it was just like a full game effort. I mean, holding Missouri, that offense is explosive, man. Held them to 10. The offense scoring 41. They did it through the air. They did it on the ground. They did everything. It was dominant.
Yeah, absolutely dominating. I mean, A&M struggled against Arkansas, which we'll touch on in a little bit. But, I mean, it looks like Connor Wegman probably butchered that last name. I mean, talk about a damn near perfect game. 18 for 22, 276 yards, but 0 touchdowns. But he got them into where Lavon Moss and Amari Daniels could take over the two running backs of the Aggies. Lavon Moss, 12 carries, 138 yards, 3 touchdowns, and Daniels adding 2 more. It was just an absolute shit pump.
Yep, 5 rushing touchdowns.
5 rushing touchdowns for the Aggies. And then on the other side, we know how good this Brady Cook quarterback for Missouri is. He looked like shit.
He really struggled.
13 for 31, 186 yards, 1 touchdown. I mean, we all saw. I'm blanking on the A&M secondary that gave the Missouri top receiver, or it was Theo Weiss that received a blanket from a Texas A&M player, and everyone was like, "Oh, you woke up, you messed with the wrong guy." But A&M came out to play, proved that they are a force to be reckoned with this season.
Backed it up.
And backed it up.
Yeah, this was a scary performance from A&M. This team, obviously in the SEC, there's no weeks off until week 10 when you play Chattanooga. But within the division, there's no weeks off. And I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna take a little peek at the schedule just to see what Texas A&M is working with. Okay, obviously they still got to play Texas A&M now. Is that SEC rivalry? That's pretty exciting. And they have LSU and Texas still on the schedule for ranked opponents. So I mean, those are big time games, and a couple more big time wins. They're going to keep rising, no doubt about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that kicked off this great day of football. Next, we're going to talk about the biggest upset of the weekend. Alabama, who came off a beautiful win over the Georgia Bulldogs, traveled down to Nashville to take on the Vanderbilt Commodores. And Vandy shocks the damn nation, beating Bama 40-35. Tanner, talk to me.
They're showing how to play real SEC football. Shout out that man. He was not wrong. He was just early. He knew it.
Like 10 years early, but
he knew it. He knew it. Look, I mean, this is what makes college football so great. I mean, this right here, you have Alabama, who the biggest win of the season, the craziest game of the season, the game that makes everyone in the world go, college football is the best. Number one, Bama probably number 4, I think. Then Bama immediately shoots up to number 1 after. I think Georgia was actually number 2 because Texas was 1. But then Bama shoots up to number 1 immediately after that win. It's like, wow, these guys look good. And they come into Vandy, who earlier that day, Vandy heard former Alabama head coach say that everywhere is tough to play in the SEC except Vanderbilt. They're the butter. I mean, he wasn't wrong.
He ain't wrong.
That's the thing about it, man. Like, and I think that's what woke Vandy up because they knew he wasn't wrong. Vandy football has been the absolute butt of the butt end of the joke in the SEC, and I mean, it was incredible. And you look at the game. I mean, Alabama's offense. Jalen Milroe still had a pretty good day. Obviously, that one pick was really costly as it was a pick 6 early in the game that kind of set the tone. But Alabama's defense giving up 33 because of the pick 6, really giving up 33 to Vandy. That probably can't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Alabama defense did not look good. Number 13, blanking on his name. He was losing his mind. There's a clip going around of him just losing it during plays. So that's definitely a cause for concern. But I'm looking at 3 things here, Tanner. Fumbles. 1-0. Yes. Bama had the fumble. Interceptions. 1 for Bama, 0 for Vandy. And probably the most important stat here, Tanner, is time of possession. Vandy held on to the ball for 42 minutes to Bama's 18, Tanner.
I've never seen that before in my life.
That's insane.
I've never seen an Alabama team be outpossessed for so long.
Absolutely insane. Total play 75-45. Just don't give them the opportunity, and that's what the Commodores did on Saturday.
Yeah, and I mentioned how the offense didn't look terrible for Bama, and Milroe still had a day. I mean, a lot of people, when you think of Alabama, you think of running backs. Probably RBU. They did not get it going on the ground today, and Vanderbilt nearly doubled up their rushing yards. Definitely played into that time of possession. How do you beat Bama, who's arguably probably the best playing, the quarterback playing the best football in college football right now is Milroe? You keep him on the sidelines. That's how you beat. That's how you beat Alabama right there. The blueprint's out.
Yeah, the blueprint is out. It makes you wonder, though, is this a hangover from that previous week, that amazing win over Georgia?
I'm sure it played a part.
It played a part, but Vandy looked like the better team, man.
Yeah, at least in the first quarter, right? It gets out to that 14-0 lead, and that's when you're like, oh, we're on upset alert here. Obviously in a 5-point game, you think if Bama gets off to a better start, this game probably goes a little differently. But still, I don't disagree with that. Like, Vandy was obviously controlling the line of scrimmage, establishing the run. I mean, they were the team that held on to the football for 42 freaking minutes of this game. And you keep Milroe on the sidelines, he can't make incredible plays if he's sitting on the sideline.
Yeah, I mean, he was your player of the week, not so much this week. But next up, we have a huge shocker. We got to bring a special guest on to talk about this next one. Of course, we are going to be talking about the huge Arkansas upset over Tennessee down in Fayetteville. And of course, you know who was going to join my brother, reoccurring guest, Erich Godsey. Erich, your Hogs got the huge upset over Tennessee down in Fayetteville. You were in attendance for this historic night in Fayetteville. Talk to me about this one. Hogs win 19-14.
Absolute madness. Absolute madness. It was a beautiful day up in Fayetteville on the hill. Can't say that I woke up expecting to win. I would say that I woke up expecting to play a round of golf, expecting to tailgate, and then expecting to enjoy some beveraginos at the game and hope that we don't get killed by 40. But obviously, that's not how it went. No, it was phenomenal. Our defensive coordinator, T. Will, is an absolute dog. Got his guys playing absolute out of their mind, and everything just kind of went our way. No mental mistakes, nothing like that. So it was a great day in Fayetteville.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about before these games kicked off. It was going to be a rough day for the Godsey clan. Arkansas was going to lose by like 30 to Tennessee. Iowa was going to lose by like 60. One went the positive way, the other one not so much. But I mean, you talked about this Arkansas defense. Arkansas has never been known for having a prolific defense. It's always been surrounding their offense, dating back to D-Mac, Felix Jones, Peyton Hillis, to the Bobby Petrino before the motorcycle accident. And
motorcycle accident. Yeah.
Yeah, Bielema, who had a prolific running game. But this team has a defense and has the guys on offense. I mean, Taylon Green was at Boise State last year, transferred to Arkansas. He was playing phenomenal this game, got injured late. At that moment, how are you feeling when Malachi Singleton came in?
Surprisingly, a lot more calm than you would think. Malachi is a dog. He throws darts. Whenever he started his first drive, you could tell that he was a little scared that, this was kind of like his moment. But once he kind of rolled out of the pocket, made that first pass, you could kind of tell that he settled in. But, I mean, I was talking to some buddies. If this is any game in the past 5 years, I mean, our backups would have lost us. We would have lost somehow by 3 touchdowns. So to have that guy as our backup, I mean, somehow I was more calm than you would expect.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Arkansas looks so good. This game really kept Nico Iamaleava in check this entire game. Only 156 yards when he's used to throwing 320, 350. Yep. And he made that costly mistake down the stretch. What was going through your mind?
Hey, hold on. I mean, that's smart of him, man. You want to hold on to that football. It's a time where you need to play.
Well, let me back up. Nico rolls out and throws one of the prettiest passes I've seen in a while, about a 50-yard dot. Were you shitting yourself at that moment?
Double cover it. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at Ridge, my brother-in-law, and just thinking like, this is it. This is where we lose. This is how it all crumbles down. This is normal. We're used to this. I mean, yeah, and like you said, then that next play, it's just, yeah, I mean, you knew what happened. He just kept going that way and kept going that way, and I'm like, there's no way he doesn't get rid of this ball. There's no way. And he started going for it. As soon as I saw him go past that line of scrimmage, I was like, we won. Like, there's no way that he makes this miraculous, gets away from the DN, somehow cuts it back. I mean, there's just no way. So, again, like you said, he's used to throwing 320, but for that game, it was so weird. It looked like he was so calm in the sense of, like, he was only going to throw the ball if his guy was wide open. And like, didn't take any chances downfield, and other than obviously that double coverage play when you had to. But it was just so weird that he played so different against us, and maybe that's obviously giving credit to our defense and all the schemes that our DC schemed up for the week.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could talk the entire time about this defense. I mean, Tennessee, obviously going into this game, they're averaging like 60 points a game, I guess. And when they played at Oklahoma, obviously, right, SEC opponent, a little bit less. But before that, averaging north of 60 points a game. I mean, was it good pass rush? Was it just keeping him in the pocket and like, you know what, this guy loves to run. Let's just make him beat him with his arm. Was it good coverage? Like, talk to me about this, how this Arkansas defense really kind of sunk their heels in and took it to the Volunteers.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think a little bit of everything, to be honest. I think we threw different looks at him that, like you said, a bunch of the scoring has happened against some non-cons and stuff like that. And obviously OU is a competitive enough team in the SEC, but we stopped the run. I think that was a big thing. And then honestly, we're missing one quarterback, Braxton, I believe is his name. And so we had a freshman out there and he played out of his mind. I think a bunch of it was, like I said, I just don't think we let up any big plays, which, maybe they just didn't kind of notice that and didn't want to take advantage of maybe just those 10 and out routes or 15 out routes. So, defense just truly played out of their minds. Simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what was your first reaction when those clocks hit 0 and the fans start rushing that field? What was going through your mind at that moment?
First off, before you answer that, did you make it on the field? Did you try? Did you go?
I did not. We were up there. It would have been. I've done it once. Twice. One at Arkansas, one at Iowa. So, and then when you do it before, it's super cool, obviously, but also just seeing everything and everyone rushing, and it's just like a surreal, like, whoa, like we did it. Like, and first of all, like what Sam was asking, we immediately, we were in a box, everyone was hugging, everyone was just like, holy freaking A, we did it. I mean, I'd shed a tear. I'm like, this is what it feels like to be like a top 5 team. And, like Arkansas hasn't done that at home since, and you can probably double check these numbers, but I'm pretty sure it's like 1999. And then the last time that we beat a top 5 team ever, or, wherever, it was like 2009, 2010. So, I mean, it's been 15 years since that. So it's not a reoccurring event for this program to beat a top 5 team. And obviously a couple of years ago, we beat Texas when they were, I think, top 15 or top 20, and we rushed the field then just because of that rivalry. But you could definitely tell this was different, especially just that Bama-Vandy loss happening. And you could tell, like, looking at Tennessee fans that were checking the scores, being like, this is our moment that we can beat number 1. So just to kind of beat a top 5 team as well as crush those dreams was pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Any final thoughts?
No, I do think, I mean, it's important to highlight the red letter day the Godsey family had. Arkansas with a top 5 victory. Iowa with their first points versus a ranked opponent since 2022. Give it up for the Hawkeyes, everybody. First points since 2022. Absolutely electric stuff. But yeah, I mean, that's awesome. This is what college football is all about, for sure.
It was great. And the crazy thing is, at the beginning of the year, I was shooting for like 5 wins. And now that we're already at that 4 mark, it's kind of like, okay, we have a bye week. We have LSU, another night game, top probably 15 matchup. And then you kind of just see where you go from there. Obviously, Ole Miss has its flaws. And, in mid-November, we got the number 1 team, Longhorns, coming in, and we know what happened the last time. So there's matchups that are going to be exciting, and maybe Sam Pittman has cooled off his seat a little bit, but we'll see.
Definitely helps being the number 14.
Who needs basketball season? This is a football school.
All right. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. No, but it's been. We were expecting, a few wins at the beginning of the year, a La Tech win later in the year, and just smooth sailing right into basketball. So it's been a good change of pace.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure your Saturday night was crazy. But Erich, thank you so much for coming on to talk about this game. We thought it'd be super cool to talk to someone that witnessed this firsthand. So we appreciate you coming on, and hopefully you come on and be a guest picker in the near future.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks for having me on, and woo pig, baby.
Awesome. Thanks,
Yes,
Erich.
sir. Now, Erich had a lot of fun on Saturday. Tanner, us, unfortunately, not so much. We knew this coming into the season. Ohio State kicks the shit out of Iowa, 35-7. Not even a competitive game. A little competitive on the scoreboard, but not on the field. Hawks lose 35-7. Tanner, give me your first thoughts.
Well, I said it before. I mean, this is an absolute win. We scored points, Sam, and that is the first time. We can't say that it's the last time we scored points against a ranked opponent was 2022 against Ohio State, ironically enough, in the shoe. That game we had a field goal and a defensive touchdown. The last offensive touchdown we scored against a ranked opponent was at home against Michigan.
Let's go.
That year of 2022, which you and I were actually at that game.
We were.
So some are saying we're the good luck charm, but yeah. So, but yeah, no, it's not good. I mean, it's one of those games where, like you said, we knew we were going to lose. We predicted the schedule. We said, what's the ceiling? I said the ceiling was 11-1 because there's not a chance in hell that Iowa beats Ohio State. And obviously we knew that going in. And that's not the issue here because, again, we all knew it. The issue here, it's really disheartening to see a couple things. When you're on the road in a 7-0 game in the second quarter with a 4th and half a yard at midfield, and you line up for a punt, which obviously this is Iowa. We know we like to punt. But it was actually a fake, Sam. They had the fake called. And Kirk Ferentz, I don't know, apparently he didn't like the look, but he sat there for a couple seconds. At the very last second, called a timeout, but it was one of those where they called it. And, of course, it was a 4th down, so Ohio State was it was loud in there, so the play kind of went on, even though the refs tried to blow it down. Yeah. And the fake punt worked. He clearly got the first down. And, of course, they had to call that back because of a timeout from your own coach. So your own coach called a timeout, sabotaged your fake, sabotaged the first down. And then all that, it'd be one thing if, he lined up for the fake, didn't like it, and then just said, you know what, screw it. Let's just go in with our big guys, get our alignment in there, run the ball, and see if we can just get this yard. No, he decides, you know what, we're going to punt this. And with our true freshman punter, I understand, we talk about punter, he completely shanked it. Oh, yeah. And we
probably the worst punt we've seen in like 6 years.
And we gained like 15 yards of field position. Really, really disheartening stuff to see that from your head coach. Also disheartening to see the quarterback you brought in. We keep talking about Cade. He's awful, man. He's just bad at the sport. He missed a wide open receiver that would have been 6 on the first possession of the game. That's a real issue. Then, through the entirety of which he played, Iowa scored 0 points. It was 35-0. Then we bring in Brennan Sullivan. He leads one drive and they score a touchdown. Now, Brennan Sullivan didn't drop back and sling the ball and look great doing it, but he led an offensive drive that ended in a touchdown, something Cade McNamara did not do. And after the game, of course, immediately it's, no, Cade McNamara is our quarterback. Cade McNamara is our quarterback.
Practice as well, I heard.
It's starting to get to the Deshaun Watson point of loyalty of, like, how do you continue to watch this team play and continue to put this guy out there as your starting quarterback? Like, I just don't get it. And the backup was a Big Ten quarterback in the past, man. Like, this is just really, really disheartening. I know you have, and I think the entire state has completely lost faith in the coaching staff, specifically the offensive coaching staff. And I'm not talking about Tim Lester. I'm talking about Kirk Ferentz managing the roster of his offense. He cannot choose to put the guys out there that give you the best chance to win. It's really disheartening. And I'm telling you, this program will not be good until Kirk Ferentz resigns. I've said it. If I've said it once, I've said it a million times. It just can't happen. And we're getting to the point, of course, where we're all like, I think I might have even said this on the podcast, where, Cade's got to be better. Cade's got to be better. Yes, Cade does need to be better. But guess what? Who took a 1-game suspension because he cheated to bring Cade in here? Kirk Ferentz. Last year, who brought in a backup quarterback who was so fat and so bad at the sport? Kirk Ferentz did. Who brought in Spencer Petras, who was clearly over his own head playing in Big Ten football? Kirk Ferentz did. This is now 3 or 4 quarterbacks he's brought in who just clearly aren't good enough to play Big Ten football.
Yeah,
that's an issue. We could keep talking about Cade, but at some point you got to look at the head coach and say, you're not bringing in enough talent.
Yeah,
and that's what's happening. And his ability to evaluate offensive talent is awful.
Yeah, I think you nailed it on the head, Tanner. And I think it's an important distinction when you say the offensive coaches, you single out Kirk Ferentz. Because to be honest with you, Tanner, I think Tim Lester has done a damn good job as OC. I think he's implemented a lot of good things. We just don't have the talent to use it correctly.
And we don't have the head coach to put in the people who give us the best chance to win.
Yeah. And I mean, we've talked about this at length, but explain to me this, listeners. Iowa has put in Brandon Sullivan damn near every time we've been in the red zone.
Yep.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but the red zone is the most important 20 yards on the field.
Correct.
Wouldn't you want the guy that plays quarterback, the most important position, at the most important part of the field, just on the other 80 yards?
Yeah. No,
you think, right?
The thought process is ass backwards, Sam. The only argument for it would be short yardage situations. You want the mobility of a quarterback. Well, then on 4th and 1, why don't you bring in that? It's the same thing. 3rd and goal, 3rd and 1. It's the same thing. Why on 3rd and 1 do you have Cade in there, but on 3rd and goal you have Sullivan in there? Sullivan is clearly the quarterback right now. Well, from what we've seen, and now I say that because what we've seen, because we haven't seen Sullivan enough because they're too stubborn to put him in. But I can tell you something is for damn sure. Cade McNamara will not be the quarterback that leads Iowa to the playoff or to the Big Ten championship game or to anything of relevance.
Yeah.
So maybe Brennan Sullivan isn't that good. Who knows? But he's a jolt of energy and someone who can move. And I can guarantee you Tim Lester would be salivating to get a mobile quarterback in there, move him out of the pocket, get some boots in there, get some crossers, easy, high percentage throws while the quarterback is moving out of the pocket. I guarantee he wants to do that. Kirk's just not letting him.
Yeah, I think we can relate this kind of back to last year. You mentioned Deacon Hill and that train wreck of a quarterback. I think we can compare it because you had Alex Padilla and Marco Lanes under him, mobile quarterbacks. Obviously, they finally put in Padilla. Didn't really work out, but at least it was a jolt. And we've seen the differences. We've seen Sullivan in important situations, and he has succeeded damn near every time. Now, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, looking at his stats, I think he was in for 1 or 2 drives, maybe in garbage time. So obviously take that with a grain of salt. But he was 1 for 1, 12 yards, 2 rushes, 27 yards. If that doesn't get you excited, I don't know what.
That's it, man. Like, you're telling me that exact scenario, if K. McNamara is under center, they score the touchdown? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, it's just annoying. It seems like we keep repeating and nothing's going to change. But on the other side of things, obviously the big story surrounding Ohio State is the running back room of the Buckeyes. Quishon Judkins and Travion Henderson. Tanner, now you can tell me I'm wrong, but I thought we played them pretty well for being the best running back duo. I mean, Judkins had 13 carries, 78 yards, but we prevented him from getting in the end zone. Travion Henderson, 11 carries, 61. I'm taking that from the two of them damn near every week. But where they cooked was Will Howard. Looked like he could do no wrong. He had 209 yards on 21 for 25 passing and 4 touchdowns. Had a little miscue with a pick, but then he also had another touchdown on the ground, 10 carries, 28 yards. Not even this offense, this quarterback, Will Howard, looked phenomenal, making this Iowa secondary look like fools.
Yeah, I mean, everything I'm about to say, I'm going to but like I don't blame the defense one bit for this.
Shocker.
I think
It's Iowa football.
Yeah, while it was a competitive game, they played great. But yeah, I mean Ohio State, man, it's so weird to say that the team that's ranked current at the time they were playing is number 3. Now are they currently number 2 now?
I believe they are
up to 2. I think they're still underrated, man. No one is talking about this team. We're all talking about, obviously a lot about the Alabamas and Georgias.
Mhm.
Tennessee was getting a lot of steam, a lot of coverage in the national media. Texas, obviously, all those SEC boys were. Ohio State is one of the best teams in the country. Obviously, they got the big test this weekend, though. Obviously, we'll really see what's good with Ohio State, but they have
couple of tough games coming down these next couple of weeks.
But they have just taken care of business at every step of the way and looked comfortable doing so. So Ohio State's really freaking good.
Shocker. But yeah, I mean, nothing new with Iowa, so we are not going to harp it on it anymore.
It's just if I could sum it up, man, we've been pissed at Iowa football before. We've been, we've gone through the gauntlet of emotions with Iowa football. This is in the worst spot because, to be honest with you, I know personally I've just completely lost faith in the head coach and his roster decisions and his roster management. And it's just led me to a state of indifference. Like, obviously, the Mets were playing game 1 on Saturday, so I was pretty focused on that. And that may be why, but I was just so indifferent about this game. I just straight up didn't care. Yeah. And that's never happened before. And that's a problem. Like, it's just, I just have no faith and I'm indifferent, which is, again, not a good sign at all.
And I feel like we are not the only part of Iowa faithful losing that faith in this team, which sucks because we do have a great defense. But moving on, you ready to talk some pro ball, Tanner?
Yeah, we'll talk some football.
Down in the NFL Week 5 action, it kicked off Sunday evening in London as your Vikings take care of the Jets 23-17. Now, Tanner, you mentioned how you have bought into this team, and I have had a little pushback, right? You took care of the 49ers. They were banged up. Texans was an impressive win. I mentioned that. Tanner, I'm in.
You're in.
I'm in this team. I mean, this defense, dude. It's truly incredible. Hire of the year, Brian Flores, DC of the Vikings. Bringing in Sam Darnold. It's just going. The wheels are rolling for this Vikings, and boy, they look so damn good, Tanner.
Yeah, this was a statement game, and I know what you're going to say. Statement game. They only won by 7-6. It came down to the end, yeah, but it was a statement game to the league that look, things don't have to go perfect for Minnesota to win games. Obviously, they went pretty perfect against Houston. They went damn near close to perfect against San Francisco and the Giants. But Sam Darnold did not play well in this game at all. He got banged up on a big hit somewhat early in the game. But he was not very confident in his throws. He was inaccurate for the first time this year. And he did not look good at all. I mean, his final stats were 14 for 31, a $179 and a pick.
Yeah.
No touchdowns. Yeah, again, I can say it a million times. He just did not look good. And the Vikings still won this game.
Yeah.
And they've showed the league that, look, like I said, things don't need to go perfect. Sam Darnold doesn't need to pass for 250 plus 300 yards for us to win. Aaron Jones doesn't need to run for 100 on the ground for us to win. We can muck it up with this defense, create turnovers, and get in the end zone that way. And obviously Van Ginkel with another pick six off a screen. Stephon Gilmore with a pick to seal the game. What year is it? Stephon Gilmore is getting picks like that. And then Cameron Bynum had another pick off of Rodgers. So the defense is nasty. I'm not concerned about Sam Darnold. It's just this Jets defense is really good. I said it previously. I love this defense, man. I think they're nasty, and it's a shame that Rodgers sucks now. It's another year of bad quarterback play. It's just a real shame. You can see I'm broken up about it. But I'm a little bit concerned. There's a little concern coaching with a lead. Because this is now back-to-back weeks where the Vikings had a 3-score lead and lost it. They're both a little weird, this one being in London with that Jets defense, and last week, obviously, divisional game on the road. Jordan Love coming back. Took a while for him to find his footing. But it's a little bit of a trend now where Kevin O'Connell just remains aggressive constantly. And obviously, you don't run like in a situation like this when the Vikings are up 17-7 or at halftime or 20-7, whatever it was, 17-7 at halftime. You don't just run the ball for the entire second half, but you don't need to take the deep shots as much. And the Vikings just continue to put faith in Darnold, if that's what you want to put it, and be rather reckless with the ball, taking shots downfield in the fourth quarter in one possession games when you really want that clock to churn instead of relying on the run, high percentage passes, screen game, all of that good stuff to keep that clock running. And two teams have tried to come back now, and both have fallen slightly short, but it's a little bit of a trend that is concerning me. But they're 5-0 going into the bye. Aaron Jones got banged up, only played like a quarter in this game. Hopefully, with the bye, he can get back healthy for the Lions after the bye, which is obviously a big matchup in that NFC North. And then TJ Hawkinson is the other one. Practice window open before this game. I think it's looking like he's going to be back for after the bye as well. So they're getting healthier, hopefully. They're getting healthier. They're going into a bye 5-0. If you would have told me they were 5-0, I would have punched you in the face. I predicted them to go 1-4 through these 5 games. They're 5-0. It's hard to complain, but expectations change. Yeah. Now this is a team that's going to be held to a standard of a Super Bowl contender, and they're going to be critiqued as such, and we just have to. It's the way sports work. And if critiquing a win against the Jets where they go 5-0, I can't believe I'm doing that. But like I said, expectations change, and we need to change it. But get into the bye, get healthy, rest up. Kevin O'Connell, work on that game plan, work on coaching with the lead. We'll be just fine.
Yeah, you mentioned Aaron Jones got a little banged up. He is week to week. It seems like this bye week is coming at a perfect time. It seems like they're all a little banged up, but I think he nailed it on the head. It seems the story surrounding this Vikings team was what's going to happen when Sam Darnold doesn't play out of his spine. We saw that in London, and the Vikings got dubbed, and that's all that matters. Yeah,
and one thing, we talk about this. I mean, Garrett Wilson had a day, obviously, great receiver he is. The Jets running game, man, it was brutal.
Yeah.
14 carries for 36 yards in total. That's between Breece Hall and Braylon Allen. Looked like they had 2 dogs back there, and I think it's back-to-back weeks now. The running game just has not been going.
No.
I mean, I guess last week against Denver, nothing was going. But still, the Jets, you got to run the football. Breece Hall's too good of a player to not feed him the football.
Yeah, absolutely. Any more thoughts on this one?
I just can't believe it. I mean, I cannot believe we're 5-0 heading into the break, or the bye week, I should say. It's just absolutely insane. And that's probably played into my difference with Iowa. The Mets going on a postseason run or trying to, and the Vikings are now 5-0. Iowa football is so far relegated at this point. But yeah, I mean, as good of a start to the season as we could have hoped. Rest up. That's all it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on, let's talk about this next one, Tanner. Probably the best game of the NFL slate on Sunday. The Ravens beat the Bengals in a high-scoring affair, 41-38. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, this game rocked, first off, from a spectator standpoint, back and forth. I mean, what is that? 79 points scored in this game. The Bengals continue to be the most confusing team in the NFL. They should be really good. Losses to the Patriots, losses to the Commanders, which now we see Commanders might just be good. And then they play an absolute juggernaut like the Ravens and go toe-to-toe, lose it at the end due to a bad snap on a field goal in overtime. I feel for you if you're a Bengals fan because you just saw what your team can be and what they should be.
Yeah.
The defense is a real big issue. As Fernando Tatis just hit a moonshot and pimped the heck out of it.
Wow, 5-6.
Yeah, wow. Padres going up 6-1.
Love it.
Yeah, shame. But the defense is a real big problem for the Bengals. Joe Burrow looked awesome. Jamar Chase looked awesome. Those are, if they win this game, those are probably 2 NFL players of the week we're talking about.
That's it.
But the defense is just, they're so bad. They're just so bad. Opponents this year, I mean, the lowly Patriots beat them, scored 16. They lost by 1 to the Chiefs in that big time rivalry game there. They took care of business against the Panthers, led up 38 to the Commanders, now 41 to the Ravens. I mean, it's a shame because this should be one of the best teams in football. They've played like it at times, but not consistent enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, like you said, will probably, if they get win, if Money McPherson or so we thought hits that field goal, they are 2.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, it's more the snap. The snap.
Oh, yeah.
It was not there. Really, I mean, I guess you're not wrong if he made the field goal, but I'm not putting any blame on McPherson on that one. That
obviously,
really poor snap. But totally.
I mean, it seems year in, year out, this Bengals team cannot get a running back. I mean, I know we talked about last year, Chase Brown, 46 yards. I mean, you had a damn near perfect game from Joe Burrow. He had that one pick, yeah, of course. But you get a damn near perfect game from Joe Burrow. He's hitting on all cylinders, and he still end up losing this game. All credit to Lamar Jackson. He looked immaculate. Like he said, that Bengals defense is not it. Derrick Henry could do whatever he wanted. Lamar Jackson could do whatever he wanted. Zay Flowers, Kohler, Rashad Bent, all of these dudes were just cooking this defense, and that's really what it came down to.
Yeah, no, you hit it on the head for sure. I mean, it's really frustrating if you're a Bengals fan. They're really missing Joe Mixon, as you said, really haven't been able to get the run game going this year. One-dimensional offense makes it tough at times.
Yeah.
Can't stop a nosebleed.
Absolutely. Moving on, we have another close one. Bills versus Texans. The Texans end up winning by 3. Tanner, if you look on the stat sheet alone, the Texans should have won by at least 3 touchdowns. I mean, outgained them in the passing, total yards per play, third down efficiency. I mean, talk to me about this one because I'm at a loss for words of how this game was even close, especially with Josh Allen's performance.
Yeah, it was the tale of 2 halves. I mean, going into halftime, it was 17-3. Houston was in total control of this game. Houston had 14 points in the first quarter, included a bomb to Nico Collins, and then their offense just completely stalled, and they only got field goals in the next 3 quarters. So Houston, I commend Houston's defense. They had a lot of bend but don't break. I mean, they a lot of yards, but not that many points. The third quarter was the disaster quarter for Houston. They got outscored 14-3, which was the reverse of the first quarter where Houston outscored Buffalo 14-3. But the big moment in this game, I think, Houston was up 20-17. Buffalo gets a turnover in the red zone, or Houston was inside their own 20. Buffalo gets a fumble from CJ Stroud, recovers it in the red zone. Looks like they're about to take the lead. That defense holds strong, forces a field goal. The game is tied, and then Kaimi Fairbairn, who's been excellent this year, as it seems like all kickers have been in the NFL. He's been excellent this year. He's able to hit a long field goal for the win. So this one was just the tale of 2 halves. Bills dominated the second half. Texans dominated the first half. The team that started better won.
Yeah, that's really what it came down to. But to wrap it up, we got to talk about this Sunday night game, which a lot of people didn't believe was going to happen due to the long, lightning delay in Pittsburgh. But the Cowboys pull this one out 20-17. Here, give me your thoughts.
I think for the first time, I know we had the 2 picks. I think one of them was just the miscommunication between him and CeeDee Lamb in the red zone. I think Dak Prescott looked pretty good. Then this was really the time where I'm like, oh yeah, this is the Dak we expected to see, and that's huge for the Cowboys because they're going to need to score. I do think they're going to need to be better in the red zone. I talked about that turnover. Dak throwing for 352 yards and their team scored 20 points. It seems like it would probably be a little more than that based on the passing performance. Rico Dowdle showed up in the running game. Finally got near that century mark on the ground. And if you had him and Zeke's yards together, they did get over the century mark at 104 rushing yards for them two combined. This is the type of offense you need to see from the Cowboys, more balanced, but they need to be better in the red zone if they're going to win some of these tough games they've got coming up. But their defense did enough. We talked about how banged up they are. They're just going to need to kind of tread water until they get healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. It seemed this game was weird. You mentioned the injuries of the Cowboys. It was blatantly obvious in this game, especially on that defensive end. Justin, if you look at the stats, Justin Fields seemed to play it. At times he looked great. And then other times, terrible. It was just like this the entire game. And it was just so weird. He played good enough to keep him in it, but there were times he could have taken that next step and he just couldn't.
Yeah, and I mean, I obviously with him with the Bears and what took so long for the Bears to move on, I think that might just be the Justin Fields experience where you see the raw talent. The guy who came out as a top quarterback in his class, went to Georgia, was a quarterback on that Ohio State teams that went almost beat Georgia, that instant classic of a bowl game in the playoff. You see it from time to time, but then you see the slow decision making. You see where it seems like the game moves too fast for him, but the talent is still there and it's on display from time to time. And you buy back in, no doubt about it.
Yeah, but
he did get hurt.
Yes, he did get hurt. It seems on the other side things for the Cowboys, this is how we're gonna win some of these games or lose. We're gonna always be competitive. I think you nailed it on the head. I think Dak played pretty damn good. It was lovely to see Rico Dowdle get going in this one. Finally looked more comfortable in this offense. We don't need him to rush for hundreds of yards. If he can consistently do what he did on Sunday night, I am more than happy. But we saw the jab in between CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott. You have to get CeeDee the ball. He had 4 receptions in the first half and only 1 in the second.
Yeah, no, it seems to be a theme here, right? When it's just a lot of these teams, man, when their offense stalls, happened with the Bengals. When Jamar Chase say, I'm always effing open. CeeDee Lamb, a lot of times it happens with Justin Jefferson. Get your damn guys the ball. Good things happen. Doesn't matter if they're covered. Find a way to scheme it. Find a way just to get them the ball in space. It's just, it's the formula is simple, it seems.
Yeah. But that leads to players of the week. Tanner, who is your player of the week?
Yeah, man, we're starting in college, I assume, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I'm going to go with a team that, you know what, Sam, they might have something to say. They might have something to say in the Big Ten this year. We're all talking about your Oregons. We're all talking about your Ohio States. I get it. This team's currently 6-0, and they had a statement win on the road against Northwestern, and on the back of their quarterback who played excellent. And of course, I am talking about Kurtis Rourke with Indiana, right? We all had Indiana starting 6-0 this season, right? I mean, he played excellent football in this game, very efficient, 25 for 33, 380 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns. The Hoosiers put up 41 in Evanston, took care of business against Northwestern. Now, Indiana, Sam, you look at this team, they beat the crap out of Maryland, beat them by 14, beat the crap out of Northwestern. The other games against Cupcakes, beat FIU by 24, Western Illinois by 74, UCLA by 29, Sam. This team might be really good. And of course, that is on the back of their new head coach from James Madison, whose name is escaping me. But they hired him from James Madison, Kurt Signetti.
Yeah,
hired him from James Madison. The team has been good, and a due in large part to their quarterback play. So, yeah, give me Rourke from Indiana. Kurtis Rourke played excellent football. Indiana's rolling.
Yeah, I think Indiana is slowly making its way through the Big Ten. I love what he's doing. That team is unreal. I'm going to go with a quarterback as well. A quarterback who I have raved about in the past. Did it again this past week. Cam Ward of the Miami Hurricanes looked phenomenal against Cal in that close nail biter. He threw 35 for 53, 437 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 carries, 15 yards, and 1 touchdown. So 3 touchdowns, about 450 yards. Can't complain about that, man. Yeah. He is unreal, and it looks like he isn't even trying sometimes.
Yep, exactly. Looks like he's just going out to recess, playing with the boys, having some fun, not even trying.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we have to talk about this guy because, like I said last episode, he could be player of the week.
Yep, the weekly. We've been doing it, but now we're officially naming it. Or the Jeanty update.
The update. So he went crazy again last week. Shocker there. He now sits at 1,031 rushing yards on his season. 16 touchdowns on 95 carries. My apologies. That was last week.
Oh man,
that's brutal.
So I don't know. Did you see my face?
No. I got weeks mixed up. That is his current stats of the season.
Gotcha. So my surprised look. I don't know. That wasn't because I thought you were reading it wrong, which obviously turned up to be the correct one anyway. The Dodgers hit a grand slam, by the way. It is now 6-5.
Oh, in the top of the third.
In the top of the third.
There you go.
So that was pretty interesting. But yeah, I mean, Jeanty's is unbelievable.
So just show you how truly crazy his season is. 2015, Derrick Henry went on to win the Heisman. Through 5 games, he had 570 rushing yards, 9 touchdowns on 93 carries. Mark Ingram, 2009, 487 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns, 83 carries. Reggie Bush, 601 rushing yards, 6 rushing touchdowns, 71 carries. So, yeah, Jeanty is a beast.
Heisman numbers.
Not to mention, he has alone, Tanner. This is probably the craziest stat you'll hear about Jeanty. He has more rushing yards than 102 FBS teams.
That's just insane. I mean, I saw something where you could average 10 yards a carry and hit for what? Like
for the rest of the season.
And his average yards per carry.
Yeah.
His average yards per carry would go down.
Yeah.
That's how good this guy is. He's absolutely ridiculous. And tune in next week for the next episode of the Jeanty update.
Yeah, honestly, bro, he's unreal. But he is for sure going to play on Sundays. But let's talk about our NFL players of the week.
Yeah, man. I'm going to stick to the quarterback. You know, it's easy to make the quarterback, but I think this was the best performance in the NFL this weekend, Sam. And at the end, he was swag surfing in hot Atlanta. The most fluid swag surf you'll ever see. Truly someone who has rhythm. But of course, you know who I'm talking about. It's Kirk O'Chains. It's Big Daddy Kirk. Big Daddy Kirk and the Dirty Birds are off to a incredible start. They are now 3-2, Sam, in large part due to this performance on Thursday night when the Falcons beat the Buccaneers. Really, it looks like their main competition in the NFC South in an excellent football game. Final score was 36-30, and all Kirk Cousins did was go out and go 42 for 58. They leaned on him to throw the ball 58 times.
No, is that crazy?
And he completed 42 of them for 509 yards and 4 touchdowns. He did throw a pick, but of course, 509 yards, 4 touchdowns. And Sam, when you throw the ball 58 times, there's a good chance.
That's crazy.
There's a good chance one of them is going to get picked. So that is truly insane.
That's got to be one of the best passing performance.
I mean, I honestly think right now I can name you one other quarterback who's thrown for over 500 yards in an NFL game, and that was Tom Brady in the Super Bowl against the Eagles where they lost.
Yeah,
he threw for over 500 yards. I think it was 505.
Yeah,
but
that's insane.
And this was 509 from Kirk. It was truly something else. Now, of course, I didn't watch a ton of this game because this happened to be game 3 of Mets and Brewers, and I was doing my own thing there with that crazy comeback. But Kirk O'Chains was excellent. I tell you what, man, these Dirty Birds, they're the throwback unis. They're looking confident. Drake London's emerging as a top receiver, Sam. Falcons might be pretty good.
Yeah, it seems they were only missing a consistent quarterback, and Kirko is the definition of consistency. But unfortunately, I don't think he's going to throw 500 yards against this guy. Perhaps the best cornerback in the league is my player of the weekend. Of course, I'm talking Patrick Surtain, the second of the Denver Broncos. Went on to face the Las Vegas Raiders, and he looked dominant. Now, we often don't highlight defensive players because if you give their stats, they don't look as sexy as 509 yards, 4 touchdowns. But then you look at Surtain's stat line, 3 tackles, 2 interceptions, and 1 100-yard pick 6. This dude is absolute clamps, and he proved it on Sunday against the Las Vegas Raiders, man.
Look, I'm not saying the Las Vegas Raiders are a high-powered offense. The week before that, the Jets, we talked about how dysfunctional they are. That Broncos defense, they might be okay. Also, a huge shout-out to Riley Moss.
Yep, shout out.
On that Broncos defense, of course, that is our lockdown cornerback 1 on the white versus black bowl. So it's good to see he's getting some run. First interception, of course, in his career. It's going to be big. We're going to need him to cover like Justin Jefferson in the white versus black bowl. So get your reps in now. But yeah, that was pretty sweet. And the Broncos, man, they might not be terrible. I thought they were terrible. Bo Nix looked terrible. Bo Nix might not be terrible. Their defense is definitely not terrible. The team might not be terrible.
It's crazy. It's crazy how that works. But that is going to wrap it up for our football talk. Tanner, we have a really, really special guest for this guest picker. So
I'm super excited.
Stay tuned for that. And now is time for Pick'em. We have a super special guest. My dad, Ron Godsey, in the building, in the flesh. Dad, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing well, man. Coming live from Boston, Massachusetts, here for a little business, but ready to throw down some football.
Any word on Boston here? Big fan.
Hey, it's all Philly's the enemy today. We'll deal with Boston later.
Go Sox. Is that what you meant to say?
Hey, beat Philly. That's all that's on my mind.
All
So
good.
week 7 of Pick'em. Dad, you have some pretty easy competition to fill. Jaron still sits at the top of the guest picker leaderboard with a 6-2 record. Didn't hit his Superdog, so he has 7 points. Blake last week had a rough one, going 3-5, missing out on his Superdog for 3 total points. Yikes. Dad, we have not had anybody hit the Superdog, so 11 points are up for grabs this week. So let's kick it off with the Red River rivalry. Texas, Oklahoma. Dad, who you got?
Well, I'll tell you what. I realize Texas has Georgia next week. They might be looking ahead a little bit. However, I think Oklahoma sucks, so I'm going with Texas.
I mean, that's really well put. I didn't know the Georgia thing next week, but very well could be looking ahead. But I totally agree. It doesn't matter. Arch Manning, Quinn Ewers does not matter. This Texas team is too talented. Oklahoma, they've really had trouble scoring. Texas wins this.
Yep. Give me Texas as well for all the things you have said. Don't think this is going to be really close. Moving on, though, a classic Big Ten matchup. Ohio State travels to Eugene, Oregon, as the Buckeyes take on the Ducks. Dad, who you got?
Well, first and foremost, I'm a little disappointed this game isn't being played in the Rose Bowl like it should be. However, this is the first real big game, in my opinion, for Ohio State, and that hurts me to say that with knowing they thumped Iowa last weekend. But I gotta go with Oregon, man. I really like the Ducks. They're looking good. So I'm gonna go with a bit of an upset.
Interesting. I'm gonna say it. Not so fast, my friend. These Buckeyes, I've kind of been singing their praises. I understand, everyone knows they're good. They're number 2 in the nation. But all the conversations about those SEC teams, this Ohio State team is damn good. And this defense has yet to flex its muscle, mostly due to the competition it's playing, which also pains me to say. But I think they really flexed their muscle today. I think this is the toughest defense that Oregon has played. I think Dylan Gabriel struggles in this game. Give me Ohio State to get the win on the road.
No. Give me Dylan Gabriel and the Ducks. Now, you said Oregon hasn't faced an Ohio State team. I don't think Ohio State's defense has faced a offense like Oregon's. So give me the Ducks here at home. I really like them. Moving on down south, Ole Miss taking on LSU down in the Bayou. Dad, who do you have here?
Well, this was a really easy pick for me. Got my master's degree from LSU, and that really doesn't mean anything. I hate Lane Kiffin. I absolutely hate that cat. So I am going all about LSU on this one.
Interesting. Now, I really don't like Brian Kelly at all. I really hate Brian Kelly. But I agree with you. I think LSU gets this win at home. I think we really saw what Ole Miss has to offer when things get difficult when at home against Kentucky. I think if they're not lighting up the scoreboard, if their receivers aren't getting in space and they're not throwing for 400 yards, they're not winning the game. And I think LSU is going to have something to say about that at home. Give me the Tigers.
Yeah, I was going with Ole Miss, and then I checked the kickoff time. 6:30 down in Death Valley, one of the toughest places to play in the Bayou. Give me the Tigers to beat Ole Miss with the upset. Moving on to the Big 12. Iowa State goes to West Virginia, my Superdog pick, coming off a big ass whooping of the Oklahoma State Cowboys, but face some tough competition with the Cyclones. Dad, who you got?
I'm a little, caught in the middle here, right? Iowa alum, but Iowa State pays your salary, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. But I think as an Iowa lover, Iowa State is just playing such great ball. I can't imagine them giving this away to West Virginia. So I'm all about the Cyclones on this one.
I have to agree a lot with what you're saying about Iowa State. They're playing great ball right now. I think even when going into that week where Iowa played Iowa State, a lot of Iowa fans were confident, and Iowa State's better than you think they are. I think this is a good football team. But I think West Virginia gets them at home, man. I think Morgantown is a really tough place to play. I don't think Iowa State's really seen the best the Big 12 has to offer, and I think West Virginia is a pesky football team. They hang around. I think West Virginia gets this win at home.
Not so fast, my friend. I really like what this Cyclones team is doing this year. Their schedule is very favorable to them. They have an eye on winning the Big 12 this year behind Rocco Beck and his two wideouts, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, two of the best in the Big 12, possibly even the country. So give me the Cyclones going into Morgantown and beating West Virginia.
They paying you to say that?
I wish. But another Big 12 matchup. Kansas State Wildcats head to Boulder, Colorado to take on Coach Prime's Buffaloes. Dad, you rolling with Coach Prime and Shadur, or are you taking Avery Johnson and the Wildcats?
Not so fast on the primetime Buffaloes. I think this is going to be a really close game. But I do think if you look at the strength of schedule, I've got to give the edge to Kansas State, but I think this is going to be really close. And the part that scares me is how quickly Colorado scores. But I got to go with Kansas State on this one.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on the close game aspect. I thought about this one for Superdog for a little bit, but you know what? I'm also going to go with Kansas State. I really like Avery Johnson this year. He has been a difference maker with his arm, with his legs. I mean, he looks like one of the better quarterbacks in the country. Not enough people are talking about him. That Big 12 is wide open. It's wide open. We just got done talking about Iowa State. Kansas State's got something to say about it as well. Give me the Wildcats. I think they go on the road to Boulder, get the win.
That makes three of us. Avery Johnson. I just trust him more than I do Shadur. Shadur is, as we all know, a character, to say the least. But I expect this to be a classic Big 12 shootout. I like Avery Johnson more. Don't trust that Colorado defense outside of course, Travis Hunter. That wraps it up for the college part of Pick'em. Moving on to the NFL, we have the surprise of the season so far. The Washington Commanders taking on the Baltimore Ravens. Dad, who you got here?
This was an interesting one as I was looking at it because the Ravens are no longer what we all know the Ravens to be, which is just almost like Big Ten football, right? Fight it, scrum, scratch, win by a field goal at the end. And man, they are putting up points like freaks. And as much as I would like to see the Commanders continue their role, Daniels has got it. He's due. He's due to fall apart. He cannot, continue this run. So I'm going to go with the Ravens on this. It'll probably be a field goal, but I think it'll be a high-scoring field goal game.
Yeah, I want to so bad, man. Daniels has looked so good. This Commanders, I mean, when you get Terry McLaurin, a quarterback, he looks like a top wide receiver. Their defense is playing well, but the Ravens are just an absolute wagon right now. That running game, as you said, usually a Big Ten style team. Lamar Jackson throwing for like 380 yards or something, whatever he did against Cincinnati. When he's able to throw the rock like that, this team gets just infinitely more scary. Not to mention the tight ends are getting involved. Mark Andrews showed up last week. I think the Ravens take care of business on this one.
Not so fast. I am trusting Jane Daniels. This could be his statement win in his young career. Y'all have mentioned that his time is due. Well, his time is due to rise up and make a statement win against these red hot Ravens. Give me the Commanders.
Left hand.
Who are we?
Wow.
Moving on. The Lions traveling down to D-Town to take on the subpar Cowboys. Dad, who you got here?
I'm going to make this very, very quick. Sorry to my son, Erich, and to his wife, Alex. I want the Lions to just have a major season. I mean, to go all the way. I love what they're doing in Detroit. I just want them to do well, and I'm going to go with the Lions. And I think the Cowboys are ready for a little bit. They're so up and down. You never know what you're going to expect. The Lions just are so consistent. So I'm going with the Lions this weekend.
Man, you're making a lot of great picks today.
Thank you.
I like the Lions in this one well, just especially with the injuries to the Cowboys. That defense is devastated right now. And the Lions offense is not one you want to play without your top two defensive players. They are explosive. They get it done through the air. They get it done on the ground. I think the Lions are just too much for the Cowboys.
Yep. Can't argue much with that. To add on to the injuries, I think Trayvon Diggs got banged up, probably our best secondary option. We all saw the clip of CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott. That seems to be a whole situation in itself, and not to mention the rushing attack is non-existent. So give me the Lions here pre-handedly. Moving on to the last game of the NFL slate, we have the Bills taking on the Jets. The Jets are in utter turmoil right now after the news today of Robert Salah getting canned. But Dad, who do you have here?
Well, listen, I mean, the Bills, let's be honest, they've been struggling a little bit the last couple of weeks, struggling to put points on, turnovers, but we're talking about the Jets. Come on. As much as Aaron Rodgers was the savior coming into New York, he just unfortunately needs a lot more gifts around him to make it work. So I'm going with the Bills on this one. I think this could be ugly. Because I think the Bills are due for a big blowout kind of game. And what a perfect competitor to face when you're looking for a big turnaround.
Yeah, I mean, with Aaron Rodgers banged up too. He went down in that London game. He was dealing with some knee swelling, I think. I do think that Jets defense is really good. I think they're able to handle the Bills in the first half. Then I think the floodgates kind of open up a little bit. I definitely agree. I like the Bills big in this one. The Jets, I mean, although it would be the most NFL thing ever for the Jets to just come out and win this game because that league is impossible to predict. But I'm going to back the better quarterback and the better team, and that's the Bills.
Yep, not much else to add. Give me the Bills here. But that leads to the part everyone has been looking forward to. One that the guest pickers have not been doing so great on. The closest we've gotten to is a push. So that is brutal. Dad, let's see if you can break the curse. Who is your Superdog for this week?
I hate to say it, boys. You're not going to like this pick. But I got to go with Washington after what they showed me last week, plus 2.5 at Iowa. Tough place to play. But man, those Huskies look good. I'm gonna take the 2.5 and ride it to the bank this weekend. And I hope the Hawks win by 1. Let me just say that. But, I'm going with the Huskies for the dog.
I mean, it's hard to argue with the pick going against Iowa right now. I mean, it's rough. But yeah, I don't hate that at all. And that's ironic because I'm doing something I did earlier in the year and it almost won. Earlier in the year, I had a super dog, Washington. They went to Piscataway. They were 2.5-point dogs at Rutgers. I had Washington in that, missed a field goal to tie, ended up losing by the hook. I'm going to do it again. Wisconsin goes into Piscataway this weekend. They're getting 2.5. Look, Wisconsin with the backup quarterback. Van Dyke went down with the injury against Alabama. They're 3-2. Their losses are to USC and Bama. They've had a tough schedule. They're battle tested. They go into Piscataway. Lock's looking better. Give me the Badgers plus 2.5 against Rutgers.
I like it. I like it a lot. The Rutgers looked vulnerable last week against Nebraska. I like that pick a lot. Dad, it's funny you brought up Washington, Iowa. I was actually looking at this game, but I'm going to go a different route. I believe this is an ACC matchup. Give me Cal +3 versus Pitt. I really like what I saw from Cal last week. I personally think they should have beaten Miami, but that's a conversation for another day. But give me Cal +3 versus Pitt in the ACC matchup. That leaves one important question. There are 11 points available. How many do you think you finish with this week?
Oh, dude, listen, I know the lowest bar is 3. That's all I got to beat. I'm not talking about the high bar. I'm talking about the low bars where I'm shooting. I'm going to go with 8. I'm feeling good about my picks. I'm feeling pretty solid. So, always a pleasure to be with you guys. I love the analysis, and I appreciate the opportunity to be on the show with you guys today.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. It's always fun. We started this guest picker. It's been a great way to introduce more people to our fans. So we appreciate you so much for coming on.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ron.
So before we finally wrap up this episode, Tanner, we do have a question of the episode. It comes from my mom. We are getting all the Godseys this episode. She wants to know, if you could only watch one sport for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I'm debating between 2. And there are multiple reasons for it. But I think I have to go with it. I'm going to go football. You know, it's the obvious choice. It's my favorite sport to watch. It's a lot of people's favorite sport to watch. There are a few things to this. I think the fact that I enjoy both college and professional football is a big one. And that's obvious. That gives you a huge hint into the other sport I was debating. But college on Saturdays, NFL on Sundays. During the season, you have it on like every day. You have, Monday night football, Tuesday night action, and then some college games on Wednesday, Thursday night football. You know how it goes. And then in the off season, you can only watch football. I imagine I'd get into the USFL, UFL, whatever the hell it is now. I imagine I'd get into that if it's the only sport I could watch in the spring. And then during the summer, obviously I do enjoy baseball. I'm into it, but a lot of other people survive not in being into baseball. So I think I can pass my time over the summer without football. And even then, summers when like you have the draft and you have training camp starts going on, so you can kind of get into that. So I think football not only being my favorite sport to watch, but there's enough there to keep you occupied through the spring. And then when it turns to summer, you can enjoy your summer, but then start looking forward to fall again.
Yeah, absolutely. You talked about how it's on like every day in the fall. We have a close game between Liberty and Pitbull's FIU, 24-24 down the stretch with 1:30 left. So super competitive for a Tuesday night action. We love college football. Now, back to the question, though. This one's hard. I think it comes down to 2 for me as well. I think if we have 2 different ones, believe it or not. Man. Just because I'll go the opposite. I'm going to say basketball. It's so close for me between basketball and football.
So you think I was between football and baseball?
Yeah.
I was between basketball.
Really?
Yeah, it's because what I said, but like, I love the MLB. I'm not a college baseball fan. College basketball and professional basketball I like.
That's true.
Another wrinkle during the summer, WNBA, that's basketball. And Caitlin Clark, obviously from Iowa, I have that connection. So basketball gave me a really gave me a really tough it was really tough to.
I'm so glad we don't live in this world where we only have to watch baseball.
Especially this month.
Yeah. I just love college basketball more than, you know how much this podcast loves March Madness. 4 days, non-stop, buzzer beaters, close games, nail biters, upsets. It is the best time of the year. So that is honestly why I give the slightest edge to basketball.
Yeah, it's college sports is just the best. It's just the absolute best. There's nothing like it. You've got goalposts parading through downtown Nashville. You've got a team winning the game of the year on top of the world, and then next week coming out and losing to the worst team in the SEC. There are just so many layers to this, and that's in college football alone. Not to mention your Loyola Chicago's, your craziness in college basketball. How many years in a row now have we said we have no idea who's going to win March Madness? Which I guess this year it seemed like maybe it was UConn the whole way. But UConn's first one, they were a 4 seed. No one saw that coming out of UConn going into March. They were an absolute wagon within March. And how many number 1 seeds fall on a weekly basis, man? Any single road conference game, the number 1 team is on upset alert. And that's college basketball, and it rocks.
It truly is the best. So he has football, I have basketball. We were both debating between the two, so I'm glad we got a little difference there. But with that will wrap it up for episode 144. Talked about a lot this episode. You gave us an update on the MLB playoffs and the craziness surrounding that. We talked about the upsets of college football week 6 with a special appearance by my brother, Erich Godsey. Talked some NFL, how bought in we are with these Minnesota Vikings. Not so much with my Dallas Cowboys. Players of the week. Pick them with my dad, Ron Godsey. And wrapped up with a question from my mom. But
it's the Godsey episode.
It really is, man. You can follow the podcast on TikTok, X, Instagram, at crunchtime_pod. Like, comment, and subscribe to YouTube Crunch Time with the N326 duo. A lot of good content on our social media pages, so make sure you drop a follow to all of those. Link in the description. But the clock has run out on this episode, but we'll see you on the next one on Crunch Time.
I'll see you. Let's go Mets.